Hi everyone and welcome. Have you noticed all of the cruise line changes that have been taking place over the last few months? Now that all of the cruise lines are fully operational, they are beginning to make some major changes. We will talk about all of those changes that you need to be aware of for booking for the rest of this year and into 2024. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Doug with Seymour Seas. This is a cruise tips and planning channel where I hope to help you and your family pick, plan, and enjoy your next cruise vacation. If you find this video helpful in any way, please do give it that thumbs up and always consider subscribing. Thanks so much, and let's get started. As we begin 2023, all the major cruise lines now are fully operational and pretty much cruising at full capacity. There's been lots of changes happening over the last few months. Reports are coming in from every direction, and so I'm sure it's going to be an ever-changing environment. So if you see anything differently, this is now the beginning of February 2023. If you find things that are different, please get back in touch with me and let everybody on the channel know of the changes that you've seen. We are going to focus today on the big three cruise operators and their additional brands. So those three operators, of course, are Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and Norwegian. Most of the changes are cost-cutting measures because of the pandemic shutdown and trying to increase revenue and profits. The others are also increasing fees on certain items, as well as cruise fares are going up. The demand for cruising is very, very high right now, and so that's going to drive up the cost of those fares. This makes it even more important that you are knowing exactly what's included in your fare so you're not hit with additional fees on board or before you disembark the ship. Work with a very, very knowledgeable cruise travel advisor so that you know exactly what you're getting for the fare that you're paying. Let's start with Norwegian. Norwegian has been the most public with their cost-cutting measures, and it really took a lot of people in the industry by surprise. The first surprising change was the reduction in staff and services for housekeeping. There used to be two positions available within Norwegian. There was your main room steward, and then there was an assistant. Now they have combined that into one position and reduced the amount of staff by eliminating the other position. So some of the assistants were promoted to room steward, and some of the other room stewards were let go. Also in housekeeping, and this one was also a surprise, is that instead of doing your typical full cleaning in the morning and then a turn down service with maybe the towels replaced or taking out some of the food trays or whatever it might be, that no longer happens. It is only your primary cleaning in the morning. Now, I'm sure that you can call housekeeping if you need a towel or two, but you're not going to get the turn down service that you are accustomed to. Shortly after that announcement, Norwegian came out with yet another surprising cost-cutting measure and reduction in staff, in that they were eliminating several of the entertainment staff and even one major show. Kinky Boots on the Encore was actually eliminated. They sent out letters to the affected crew members that effective immediately, their services on that team were no longer required or needed. They also, for new hires or anyone that was beginning a new contract, they also sent letters to those individuals saying that they should not report to their contract. Their contract is no longer valid. They also shortened many of the contracts if anybody was out on vacation. This was a pretty substantial cut in the entertainment team, and I'm very curious to hear how that is affecting the cruises on many of the larger Norwegian ships. In addition to the onboard cuts, it was also announced in mid-December that NCL's shoreside team would also be cut by at least 9%. In addition to the reduction in staff as well as services, Norwegian has also announced that they are increasing fees and gratuities for certain items. So, for instance, the continental breakfast for room service was a free item on the room service menu. They had already began charging for room service, but the continental breakfast was still free. That has changed, and it is now a $4.95 charge. Now, continental breakfast is your coffee, your croissants, your muffins. And so they're now charging $4.95 for that delivery. Also, the gratuities in the standard staterooms are increasing by either $2 to $4 per person per day, depending on the room category. And those in the Haven or Suites area, it is going from $20 to $25 per person per day for that area. So those are some pretty substantial increases for fees and gratuities. Another thing that is highly disappointing, I believe, in my opinion, from Norwegian is that they are going back to the in-person muster drill. Well, Norwegian apparently had very, very low compliance with their e-muster, so they are going back to in-person group muster stations where you're going to be with your entire assembly station for 30 to 40 minutes. Hopefully it is no longer outside in the sun like it used to be, but that's very disappointing because people really did enjoy the flexibility of the e-muster and not having to wait with a large group of people. So Norwegian is trying to put a positive business spin on these changes, as any major corporation would do. They are stating that all of these changes are for the better. It will make the cruise line stronger. And now that they are fully operational and cruising at capacity, they are returning to a steady state of operations. This means that they are lean and providing the best services possible to the cruise passenger. I guess time will tell whether or not the Norwegian cruise passenger is going to be satisfied with these changes. Now, one really positive bit of news coming out of Norwegian is that on Norwegian Breakaway, the Starlink satellite internet services has been spotted, and it has been confirmed that they will be deploying that fast internet service on most of their fleet. So that is a really positive move forward. We'll see where the prices of internet goes. I have my suspicions that that might be moving up a little bit as well. Norwegian seems to have the biggest list of changes. However, Royal Caribbean is also making some major changes. They have to do with the service in the main dining room. So the dining room menu itself is changing. So if you're familiar with Royal Caribbean's main dining room menu, there would be a selection of items for every evening. It changes every night, but then on the other side of the menu is the classics side of the menu that normally had a New York strip, it had a chicken breast, it probably had salmon, and it had a vegetarian option that was available every day, including the shrimp cocktail, the escargot, maybe a Caesar salad that was always available. That whole classic section is being eliminated, and the selections every night in the main dining room are also decreasing, and they are going to be surrounded or accompanied by a theme for that night. For instance, you'll have an Italian night, you'll have a Mexican night, Mediterranean night, maybe classic night or American night. So you're going to have dishes that are going to be centered on that particular theme. You will also have a chef's selection for that night, and it has already been tested on, I believe it was Harmony of the Seas, and it had some pretty good results. They also are doing this in order to streamline the service process. They have a 75-minute target that they want to hit that allows the guests to come in, sit, have their starter appetizer, have their entree, have the dessert and coffee, and that should be right around 75 minutes. All the feedback is saying that this is actually working pretty well. Another change in the main dining room is that they're increasing fees on a couple things. One is the third entree. If you are ordering 3 entrees at dinner, that third entree is going to cost you an additional $5. Now, I've never ordered 3 entrees at dinner. I have ordered 2. And an example would be you want the prime rib, but somebody's never had mushroom risotto before. So, okay, I can't decide between the 2. The waiter says, I'll just bring you both. That happens all the time. Also, if someone in your party wants to split something that they've never tried before, that's fully acceptable. Someone ordering 3 entrees, though, you're going to be charged $5. Now, here comes the big one. When you have like one of your dress-up nights, dress your best, formal night, whatever you want to call it, normally they serve lobster tails. And before, you could order 3 or 4 lobster tails without any issue. Royal Caribbean is definitely changing that. So now you get your 1 lobster tail, and if you want an additional lobster tail, it's going to cost you $16 each. Now, this came as a big surprise to a lot of people, and Royal Caribbean made a very good explanation of this, and it has to do with sourcing lobsters currently in our current reality. And it also made sure that the lobster sources were able to fulfill the actual orders for lobster. So I don't think this is going to change. If you've been on a cruise, normally you can add like a lobster tail to like the steak that you're ordering, and that always comes with an upcharge. So this is really no different. I'm just hoping that maybe the lobster tails that they're serving are not the little tiny lobster tails, and they increase the size for that primary serving. We'll see how that works. Now, the reasons for some of these cost-cutting measures is one, that 75-minute target, but it's also supposed to cut costs, obviously, as well as reduce food waste. So Royal Caribbean is also increasing gratuity prices. So for your standard cabins, it's going from $14.50 per person per day to $16 per person per day. For suites, the per person per day gratuity is going from $17.50 to $18.50. So a slight increase there as well. It has been recently reported as well that on Celebrity, their buffet, Ocean View Cafe, at dinner was reduced to half capacity, meaning that one side of the buffet was actually roped off and dark, and only half of the buffet was open, and the selection seemed to be reduced. So there seems to be, depending on the sailing, I'm sure, some reduced selection and capacity on Celebrity as well. In addition to Norwegian, Royal Caribbean was the first to bring some positive news to the industry in that they were one of the first cruise lines to install the Starlink satellite internet service to their ships, and it has been a fantastic success, and I can't wait to get back on Royal Caribbean or Celebrity and experience this faster internet service. So some good news in all of that as well. Now let's move on to Carnival. Carnival has only made a few slight changes to hours of operations for some dining venues. So their hours of operations for their pizza place used to be 24 hours a day. It has now been decreased and now will close at 4 a.m. in the morning and open up again at 9 a.m. Their late night, midnight buffet also will have a limited selection and will be available at the pizza place with respect to getting the sandwiches and maybe some small desserts and some snacks. So that late night option has also been decreased. These changes were originally stated that they were having staffing issues, and that's why that they were reducing these hours of operation, but it looks like it's sticking around. They've also reduced the hours of operation for their Sea Day brunch. So normally this would end at 1 p.m. and it now is going to end at noon. So again, not a big change. Two other small changes that are taking place is that the ordering of breakfast via the card that you hang on your door the night before, that's being eliminated. No longer will you be able to fill out that form on that card. You will have to wake up in the morning and actually call room service to place your order for breakfast. Following the rest of the industry, Carnival is also increasing gratuities and some fees. So gratuities for standard cabins are going from $14.50 to $16, and for suites, it's going from $16.50 to $18 per person per day. Wi-Fi is also going up. Your basic Wi-Fi is going up $2.50 per person per day, and the premium Wi-Fi is going up $3 per person per day. Now, hopefully this is going to coincide with, yet again, positive news that the Starlink satellite internet service is also going to be deployed on the entire Carnival fleet, which would include Princess and Holland America. So there you have it, team. There's a lot of changes taking place, and I'm sure there's many more changes out there. These are just some of the highlights and some of the major ones from the three largest cruise operators. If you have experienced any changes that we've not talked about yet, please leave them in the comments below for the rest of the C team, and I'll make sure that I can confirm those and get the news out to all of you. Thank you so much for showing up today. If you did find this video helpful in any way, please do give it that thumbs up. And as always, please consider subscribing. There's a lot of content to come and some exciting news about the channel that I'll be sharing here shortly. Thanks so much. And as always, I'll see you again soon.